Hi, this is Melanie for Pardesi Reviews. I'm here to do a review of the Tamil film Ratsasan, starring Vishnu Vishal. This serial killer thriller film, the title Ratsasan means demon, has made several top 10 lists. And before I did my top 5 Tamil films of 2018, I felt like I needed to see this one and Pariyaram Perumal. And both would make my top 5. So it was worth catching up with some of these films. This film is available in America for rental on YouTube or Google Play, but you might as well buy it in America because the rental price is the same as just buying it outright. This is by a sophomore director, Ram Kumar, who evidently did a comedy in 2014 and didn't want to be typecast, so he wanted to do a very different kind of film. He wanted to do something more serious, more of a drama. He learned about this case of a Russian serial killer, a real person. I'm not going to say how this person did their serial killings because that would be a spoiler as to the identity of the serial killer in this film. There's a segment at the beginning where Vishnu is playing Arun and he wants to be a film director. And so there's a whole thing where he it's one of those apartments with all of the newspaper clippings all over the walls because he's written a story about a serial killer and he's studied all different serial killers around the world and he keeps shopping his script around and no producer will do the film. And there's even a funny scene where he, in frustration, throws the script into the ocean and then the ocean brings it right back to him. So that segment maybe went on a little bit too long. We could have just established, I'm writing a script and I've done all this research. I don't know if we needed that whole segment, but it amused me. I enjoyed it. Okay, and he has this whole rapport with his landlord so that the landlord keeps after him for rent, and he's like, do you want to be a corpse in the movie? Finally, he's left to going to his brother-in-law and saying, can you get me a job? And so he becomes a junior SI, a junior cop. And his superior is this woman cop who enjoys beating confessions out of people, whether they're really guilty or not. And it's just, I love the banality of her because she would just answer the phone and talk to her young child and like be singing lullabies and you can hear the screams of the prisoner behind. She was just like this perfect foil of stubborn, but we've seen that kind of character, but here it was a woman playing that kind of character, which was fun. Arun sees a link between a couple of bizarre murders of young 15-year-old girls, gruesome murders. Their bodies are found dumped and mutilated and serial killer kind of ways. I'm not going to go into exactly how. And then there's a tie with something left when the body is taken that ties the murders together. But his boss, this woman supervisor, she's just so stubborn, like, why do we need to go through all of that? We're just, this guy's confessed, we're good, even though. So I liked how it showed the flaws of the stubbornness of just taking a likely suspect in and beating him until he confessed, because if you do that, then you can miss the real murderer if it is someone who is a serial killer, someone who is going to repeat their crimes again and again. It doesn't solve anything if you just throw a certain person in jail. There's all sorts of red herrings of we go down one path and then that's not the right person. So it's a lengthy film, and this kind of a thriller, I think in general works better if it's a little tighter, although I don't begrudge like I said, the little sidebar at the beginning to establish that Arun really wanted to be a film director, because then there's a little payoff at the very end of the film with that. All of the cat and mouse and Arun being the smart, young cop that nobody will listen to, I liked all of that. I liked the establishing of his family. And of course, he has a niece who is the right age that the serial killer is looking for and is in peril and all of that. You just have this sense of dread when you see that she's the right age, that something might happen to her. But what I really liked was his relationship with his brother-in-law, played by Ram Dass. And when Ram Dass has this really emotional scene, I've seen him play all different kinds of character roles before, but I've never seen him get to play a scene like that. And it was really something. Hats off to him. I'm sure he's had a longer career of films that I haven't seen in the past, but for me, the ones that I have seen him play, this was the finest performance that I've seen him do. Vishnu was very good too in his role of Arun. I don't think I have seen any of his other films. I know he's done a number of them. Amala Paul plays his love interest, who is a teacher at one of the schools, and I know I've seen her before, but I think I think she was in a film opposite Danush. Her role was not that huge, but let me tell you what I liked about it. She obviously was unmarried and had a young child. The relationship with her and Vishnu reaches a certain point where the child calls him daddy, but there's never a marriage. He just seems to move in, and it's just like this understood thing that he is part of their family unit later in the film, and I liked that. He accepted that she had a child. I'm not going to go into the backstory with all of that, but I liked all of the tension leading up to finding the serial killer. But then when the serial killer is found, who is suitably creepy, but I don't know, like the backstory flashback of why the serial killer is doing all the things that he's doing. I don't know if it lived up to the promise of all that had come before. And at the very, very end, there is a girl in peril, and she's seen the serial killer be brutal to someone, and the serial killer blows bubbles, and that's supposed to distract this young girl and make her go to the serial killer. I didn't really buy that. I mean, I don't care how shell-shocked a child is. I just, that was like one of these things, like, that doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? I didn't buy that particular thing, but the action in that surrounded that scene, other things that happened in that scene, and the special skills that the serial killer had in the fight, I thought was extremely cool. Our hero, Arun, played by Vishnu, was not like a super cop. He was a mortal man who was just trying his best. And so I liked that level of realism. It fit the tone of the film. So I don't know that I would, some people have rated this as number one. I would not rate it as number one. I have a couple other favorites. So now that I've watched it, though, I will shortly do my best Tamil films of 2018. It is a very fine film. I highly recommend it. It skirts the edge of the rating, I think. It's right in the edge of kind of being a little bit, gruesome. It's just more a suggestion of what has happened to these young victims. But it's not like you're seeing blood pouring everywhere. But if you have a thing about young women in peril, this is not for you. Another thing that I liked about it is that some of the side stories and all the creepy music were just showing everyday situations that women and young girls are going through and what they have to navigate and what they have to be afraid of. Just an everyday, like trying to catch a taxi at night, having an adult who is an authority figure that you feel that you can't say no to. So many situations like that were shown to be scary, and if that helps some people think about, even if that person isn't a serial killer, some of those situations can be extremely frightening, and women always have that on edge, having to have kind of street smarts and be aware. And sometimes you get yourself into situations where it's difficult to tell, is this a good guy? Isn't this a good guy? And so I liked how the film played with that. Any woman watching is like, oh yeah, like your radar is going off. Danger, danger, danger. I really liked it. I thought Vishnu did a fine job. Really good script. And this is only a second film by this director, so I'm really looking forward to see what he does next. It sounds like his first film is very, very different. I may look for that as well, but looking forward to what he's going to come up with next if he doesn't want to be typecast as doing only one kind of movies. I'm really curious what he will do next. If you like this review, please press like and share the video on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. Follow me on Twitter at PardesiYT. Subscribe here to Pardesi Reviews. And if you hit the bell, then you'll get a notification whenever I have a new trailer reaction or a film review.